got room?
There's no agendas back there? All right, thank you. My name is Sharon, newly elected mayor of Jamaica Beach. I'd like to thank all of y'all for coming out. As Jerry pointed out, the Jamaica Beach and West Galveston Island Property Owners Association has been doing this for a long time. It's a great resource that all these folks come out and tell us what to do in storms. So I was a Girl Scout and Cub Scout leader for many, many years, and you know our motto was be prepared. So seeing you guys here working hard to be prepared is terrific. So I'm going to make this short because we have lots of people to give you lots of great information. And next on our list, if we can have State Senator Mays Middleton, please.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you for having me today. Well, we're in a special session right now on property taxes. I bet y'all have seen that, right? So we're still working on the ways to give you your money back because, you know, government doesn't have any money. That's all taxpayer money. And it is a true blessing to get to represent this community in your state senate. We've got a great delegation. Terri Leo Wilson has done a great job representing you in the Texas House. And you know, this session was about a lot of common sense legislation. 2 days ago, we signed my bill of protecting women's sports, you know, making sure that biological men are not stealing victory from women. It's fundamentally unfair. You can't have fair competition when men are doing that and stealing victory from women in those college athletic competitions. You know, I got 4 kids too. Twins that are 9, a 5-year-old and a 2-year-old, so we're a little busy. But you know, we stood up for our children this session too, to protect them from harmful material, harmful content. We made sure that we instituted filters and things that protect them from adult websites and stuff they shouldn't see that's really just bad for our kids. And we also passed a bill to put chaplains in our public schools. So that was a big victory for religious liberties. But on the coastal issues, we had a lot of wins there too. So we put $500 million in the Gulf Coast Protection District. So that's the coastal barrier between Brazoria County, Galveston-Brazoria County line and San Luis Pass and High Island. So the state put more than it ever has. And of course, we hope we get that double dune system and renourishment where we go out 250 feet in the Gulf. That'll be a huge win for us and protect us against future storms. You know, another thing that we did was the grid. A lot of people aren't aware of some of the changes that we made there, and really the legislature did more to firm up our electricity generation than we ever have before. We ensured that there's 10,000 megawatts of new capacity that's going to come online. That's 8 million homes. That's what that powers. We also passed the backup power plan, and that's particularly important to Gulf Coast communities. There's about $1.8 billion in that, and what that does is it creates basically a direct connection, a generator system run out of the Public Utilities Commission that will connect our critical infrastructure, and it's a pretty broad definition. That's food, that's water facilities, that's places like this, the volunteer fire department. So the state's going to step in to make sure that we have that access and that all of our critical infrastructure has that backup power. And TDIM is going to help us with that once we get that fully implemented, by the way. So that's really going to help with making sure that after a hurricane, we have that direct connection to power when the transmission lines are down, because we know that, storm surges, they don't tend to do too well in Hurricane Ike style storm surges. So we'll be able to bring those power generating platforms into our community and make sure that our critical infrastructure remains online as we recover after a storm. I will say that unfortunately my TWIA bills died twice. So in the Senate I passed 2 times a bill that would have saved us $50 million on our windstorm insurance by cutting our reinsurance costs Unfortunately, that didn't make it. Didn't make it out of the House either time. I did it twice, passed it twice in the Senate. I'm not giving up because, as we know, you can't afford to live on the Gulf Coast with skyrocketing windstorm insurance because you can't have a mortgage without TWIA. So I'm going to continue that fight and make sure that our windstorm rates are affordable. We've got that meeting in August. We need to make sure they don't raise our rates. But thank you for having me here today. I see Judge Henry over here. We have an awesome roster here of elected officials that are here to help you. Robb, our city councilwoman. We work great together this session with Judge Henry and Terri and Robb, and now new mayor of Jamaica Beach. And look, we're here to help because that's why we're here today. You know, on the Gulf Coast, we help each other. You know, after a hurricane, you see that. You saw that after Harvey. We especially saw that after Hurricane Ike. Look at that right there, all the people that came and helped in Jamaica Beach after Hurricane Ike. And we're hand up, right? That's that servant leadership that is especially strong in our community here. So thank you for having me here today, and I'm here to help. If you have any questions at all, my cell phone's 409-443-7713, and we're going to go back to Austin this summer and make sure that we deliver property tax relief to everybody. So.
Thank you so much, Maze. Always great having you here. All right, let me have our next speaker. It's going to be State Representative Terri Leo Wilson. Terry's a neighbor of ours. She lives in Pirates Beach West.
Thank you all so much for coming today. I just represent the best district, I think, in the whole entire state of Texas. So we have it all. We have history, we have beach, we have just so much here. So, and I just wanted to, Maze covered a lot of what we got done this session. I'm going to give you my cell phone number before I forget, and that's 713-249-5046. And see me afterwards if you have any questions about this session or anything that I can help you with. We're here to serve you. You know, I wanted to discuss maybe one bill that I authored and passed thanks to the city of Galveston. The other one we're going to get done next session. But it was a really good bill for coastal communities. One of the things that happens during a disaster is even though our city has plenty in the coffers, when a huge disaster hits, like Ike, you still have to reserve some of those funds for first responders, but then you have tons of debris that you have to get removed immediately for safety reasons and everything else. So the current law stated that a city could not take out less than a 5-star bond rating. Well, we got a provision in the law that said except for in a natural disaster, because it becomes necessary. No one's going to give you a 5-star when your city has just been wiped out. So it becomes necessary to take less of a star. So we did get that done for coastal communities. I had all but one coastal state rep that helped support that bill. And so we're just really, really pleased that we got that one done. The other one that we tried to get done, almost made it, but failed in the end, was the GLO worked with Sally Bacco and I on writing a bill. We made it exclusive to Galveston County. Initially it was for the whole coast, that every community would benefit from. Current GLO law, under the law says under Open Beach Act that when you have one beach out of compliance, you must stop work on all of your entire plan. So that bill would have allowed GLO to approve or not approve a partial plan. So they could say, we get that you are having trouble with signage on a beach. We get that it's been stolen, or because of supply chain, you're having trouble getting the official signage back. So this would allow them to go, we know that you're planning to fix that, we understand that. You can continue beach renourishment and all of the other projects that you had on your 11 other beaches. So it was a really great bill that was misunderstood by another state rep, but we'll get her done because I'm not going to give up on it. So we got a couple bills passed for Galveston County as well. Currently, our juvenile board, for whatever reason, was carved out in law, and all of our judges had to meet weekly on like the juvenile board, and every other county meets monthly. So we got that changed because that was really tying up our judges. And so anyway, I'm going to leave it to the next speaker. I know you're all busy, but thank you for letting me represent you. It has been a true honor. Frustrating at times. Thank you, Mace, for all of your help. There was a couple times there where I was just almost in tears because it is a maddening process trying to get a bill passed. And thank you for all your wisdom and all your support, all your help, and all that you do for our community. Mace is one of the most generous individuals I've ever met, supports all of our local charities, and so I know I'm filling big shoes, Mace, but thank you very much for what you do too.
Thanks so much, Terri. Appreciate what you're doing. Here's one that doesn't need any introduction. It's the mayor of Galveston, Greg Brown.
Good morning, everyone. It's a pleasure being here this morning representing the city of Galveston. We're prepared from a hurricane preparedness standpoint. We're prepared to work with Jamaica Beach and, of course, everyone on this West End as we move into the hurricane season here this year. We have our police chief, we have our fire chief, we have our head of our emergency management department here this morning to visit with you a little later on the program. We have our city manager, Brian Maxwell, here to visit with you also. But I just wanted to let you know when it comes to being prepared for hurricanes and having a partnership, we are here, the city of Galveston, to support you in every way we can. I would like to also mention, as you can see from the comments of Representative Terri Leo Wilson and Senator Middleton, that it requires a partnership to make everything work for us here on the Gulf Coast. And I greatly appreciate both of your efforts of really helping us and helping the city of Galveston maintain our sustainability here on the coast. Our city council, July 27th, we will be meeting with the General Land Office on a one-on-one meeting with our council. We'll be discussing our beach access plan, which affects a lot of you here, and we will be getting your input. We need your input as we move forward with making decisions what is in the best interest for Galveston. Thank you for having me this morning. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Greg. Thank you for all you do for the city. Another one who doesn't need any introduction, that's County Judge Mark Henry. Mark has been at Stable for years now. Welcome again, Mark.
And I didn't shut any businesses down either. Hurricanes is what we're here for. We don't get to pass laws. That's these people's job. Just want to tell you, with respect to hurricanes, make a plan. Dry run that plan. If your plans to go to your uncle's in San Antonio, make sure he's okay with you coming to see him. And then make a kit. And the things that people forget about in the kit are prescription medications and pets. If it's not safe for you to stay in your home, it's not safe for your pets to stay in your home. So have a plan. Either take them with you or have some arrangement and make sure they're taken care of. And finally, listen only to credible news sources. This will shock you. Facebook is not a credible news source. So please use credible news sources. There's plenty of them on television, on the radio. Also, GCOEM.org, Galveston County Office of Emergency Management. We have the National Weather Service as a tenant of ours. So we get very real-time updates for weather. When we push out information, it is accurate and it is reliable and is in the best interest of public policy. So thank you for having me, Jerry. Thank you for all that are here. Senator Middleton, man, you're having a great session up there. You're in the news all the time, so I want to go up and be him. But I have twin 7-year-olds. He has 29-year-olds. Thank you all for coming out. Enjoy the day and trying to stay cool and hydrated.
Thanks so much, Mark. Really appreciate it. Now, the one city council person who rules the West End, Robb.
Yeah. Good morning, everyone. It's such a pleasure to be here on this lovely, ever so warm meeting. And if you've been coming here to this meeting for the number of years that I have, it's best to sit on the sides because that's where the fans blow. So that's why you see more people sitting on the sides. But I represent District 6, so that is from 69th Street West, not including Jamaica Beach, although I take many a phone call from Jamaica Beach, and if I can help you, I do help you. And one of the things that I've done to help both all of District 6, as well as Jamaica Beach for that matter, is I recently did a tour of District 6 with Centerpoint Energy. And as I request of people anytime, if you have a problem transformer, notify me. My cell phone is 409-256-4518. And I'm happy to say, and I turned over a number because this is my season of annual meetings, I turned over to Centerpoint a list of problem transformers, and they have already replaced those. So I'm trying to address all our utility things before the storm, which won't hit this year, should ever get here. Also still working on the natural gas, even though that's a slower process. As well as we have addressed the drainage issues, that we're always conscious of drainage, especially as we go into storm season. And with 3005 and the raising of it, which will be a benefit to us when it comes to evacuating, we found out truly by accident because we were having a severe problem in the Pirates area of water backing up, that TxDOT had left in 35 dams in the drainage quadrant. So they are all now being removed, including Jamaica Beach. So that was something we found truly by accident, but we were able to address it and get it fixed. We continue to work with Representative Wilson and Mace Middleton, our great senator, in the beach issues. We have a design and engineering project that is going on between 7 Mile Road and 13 Mile Road. And a KEPRA application has gone in for sand. And the ultimate goal is to get the entire beach nourished all the way to the San Luis Pass, because we all know we're in desperate need of sand. As your representative, unless it's a strong category 4, I plan on not leaving the island. I have a safe place that I can go. But I'll tell you, we're always the first to get evacuated if there's a storm. And when they call for evacuation of the West End, take it serious. We don't have any barrier protecting us yet. So take that serious. It's important that you evacuate. As the judge said, make sure you bring your prescriptions, your dog's prescriptions, any of the things that you need, because you don't, like with Ike, did we think when we evacuated for Ike, we wouldn't be allowed back on the island? Well, I know Jamaica Beach was, but did Galveston think they wouldn't be allowed back on the island for 2-3 weeks? No. I mean, I was launching a company in Florida when I got the call. So I had a suitcase of warm clothes, and then it got cold after Ike. Did I plan on that? No, I didn't plan well. So make sure you plan out, because you don't know. You may be gone for a couple weeks. I pray every night, I'm sure you pray every night, that it won't happen. And I'd have to say the forecast that I've seen, and I know Dave Moore will be covering this later, it looks like we will be safe another year. So I'm here to serve. Anything I could do to help you, please call on me, and thank you.
Thanks so much for what you do, Maureen. West End appreciates it. Okay, we'll move on to our famous speaker, City Manager Brian Maxwell, for the City of Galveston.
Thank you, Jerry. I was talking to my wife last night, and I figured out this is my 20th one of these. 12 years at the city, and then before that at the county. And all I could think of when I got here this morning is that in 20 years, Jerry never got the air conditioning fixed. I appreciate it. Anybody that watched the news last year got to see what Hurricane Ian did to the south part of Florida. That was an area I was talking to Bill Reed that had never really been hit, not most of the people's lifetime that was there. And I completely understood the expressions and the things they were saying because we lived that in 2008 here. Everybody up here is going to get up here and tell you, get out when we tell you to get out, pack your stuff, protect your property, all those things that we all know. 2008 was a long time ago. Bill Reed was not retired in 2008. Bill Reed was running the Hurricane Center. Radar the weather dog might not even be born then, Bill. I don't know. But, and it was, I'll be real honest with you, we were looking at a Category 2 with Hurricane Ike until Bill Reed called us at the county and told us, what are you guys doing? And we said, well, we're trying to figure out where we're going to have lunch. And he says, no, you need to be figuring out how to get people out of there because you're looking at a Cat 4 or 5 storm surge coming at the coast. You never know what these things are going to bring. Heed the warnings, listen. We're doing everything we can to harden our infrastructure. Trino Pedraza will mention that to you when he gets up here to talk about how we've hardened our infrastructure to keep water and sewer moving. We can't keep storms away, but we can do everything we can to protect you, and we can do everything, and the biggest thing is we can get you back quicker. And that is our primary goal, to get you back in your home as fast as we can. Byron and the fire chief may touch on this too. The other concern we have right now is the continuing construction on 45. We met with TxDOT this past week. We're trying to get some assurances from them. But we all know right now you can't even get to an Astros game if somebody has car trouble on the freeway. So we're very concerned about that. We will be monitoring it. And just so you understand, that time and those issues will be factored into our decisions when it comes time to evacuate. Guys, just be careful this year. Enjoy it. I'm with Marie. I hope we don't have one this year. I tell everybody most people have one of those in them, and I hope I never have to do that again, at least in one of these jobs, but we're ready if we have to. And y'all have a happy Father's Day weekend.
Thanks so much, Brian. Always great to have you here. Okay, so we'll hear how the power is going. Have Ryan Dugan from Centerpoint Energy here.
Howdy, everyone. This is actually pretty loud when you're up here. So I'm the new area manager down here in Galveston for Centerpoint Energy. Our location is off of 27th Street, if y'all aren't familiar with it. I just want y'all to know we've already had our emergency operations protocol drill. We've already sent out the crews to go out and inspect some lines. Thank you, Marie, Robb, for sending those over to us. And I've also worked with the new mayor here. She sent over some leaning poles that we've already taken care of, and we plan to continue that going forward. One of the big things that Marie Robb did speak to was, if you're having issues with power at your house or something along those lines, you don't need to just send it to her. If you want to, my cell phone number is 713-679-9003. So feel free to reach out to me if you want to send me a text or something along those lines. I do also have some business cards if you want to email me, if that's your preferred way. But we are looking to do some other things on the island. I brought in a team. We're going to go through a couple of these areas, especially on the west end. When we get in these vacation rentals and everything else like that, the electric usage goes up and we need to be notified about it. So especially with some of these homes that are being rebuilt, they used to be 1,200 square foot, now they're about 4,000 square feet. We need to know about that, so we're working with the permitting agencies and stuff like that to make sure we get notification on that and we can size the transformers appropriately. That way you're not having as many issues as you've seen before. If you notice, we did have a storm a couple of weeks ago. We did react to it. I I actually had flown in from out of the country on the same day that it hit, and worked with the mayor. I don't know where he went to. Mayor Craig Brown sent me a couple of text messages about it, and we worked through the night and also through the weekend to make sure that we restored power as quickly as possible, using our own internal crews and some of the contract crews that we have around town. So if you need anything, like everyone else has said, please heed the warnings. If you do need to get out, please get out. If you do see a down power line, do not go near it. Go ahead, call Centerpoint Energy. We'll get out there as quickly as possible to remedy the situation. Thank you, everybody. Have a wonderful day.
Thanks so much, Ryan.
Phone number? Yeah, the phone number again is 713-679-9003.
Thanks so much, Ryan. All right, well, next one doesn't need any introduction. He's currently the Chief Deputy Constable, Jimmy Fullen. Jimmy?
Thank you, Jerry, and thank you, Mayor Bowers, for hosting this event for us today. For the last 14 years, I've represented the Constable's office as your elected constable. I'm delighted today to tell you I'm not here to represent you today as the constable. I resigned back in February, but I am going to introduce you to our new constable, Paul Endinburgh, and the next time I'll be up here addressing you, I will be your next sheriff. Paul, come on up.
Thank you, Chief. Thank you, Jamaica Beach, City of Jamaica Beach, and WGIPOA for putting this on. And I'm thankful for the cool front that blew in for us today. Listen, folks, my name is Paul Endinburgh. I am your new constable here at Precinct 2. Information is power. And thank you all for being here. It's an awesome crowd. Just to let you know, Precinct 2 uniquely has several high water rescue vehicles at our disposal. One of them owned by Jimmy Fullen that hopefully, again, we won't need that, but if so, I want the City of Jamaica Beach to know that it may take us a few minutes to get here, but if you need us, please call us. I would say that we're all here for the same reason, to keep everybody safe, to keep everybody home quickly, but please listen to your city officials. We go to school, we go to training, we talk, we network, and we do it for a reason. The reason is to keep you all safe. So if I had any advice for you today, it's simply listen to your city officials, follow the warnings that are handed out, and hopefully everybody will be safe and be able to get home to their family and friends and pets and dogs and houses and everything's back intact. So my phone number, since I'm new to this area, please, is 713-408-2946. My office is having our hurricane preparedness meeting next week. Since I'm new to the office, we're going to come up with an in-house plan. And again, I'm already working with Scott, with the county over there to implement some things, but we're going to be well prepared here in Precinct 2, rest assured. So if you need our office, please call, and thank you very much for coming and having me out here to speak.
Thank you, Paul. Well, that takes care of the introductions. Now we're going to go into hurricane plan and evacuation. And of course, the first one to come up doesn't need any introduction. As former Director of the National Hurricane Service, Bill Reed.
I actually believe I was at the first one of these meetings. I love town meetings on hurricanes. But I'm preaching to the choir. You guys wouldn't be here if you didn't realize that you were at risk of hurricanes. Jerry asked me to just say a few words about the upcoming season. How many of you have heard about El Nino? Not a very well-kept secret anymore, is it? The last 3 years, we have been in El Nino's evil sister, La Nina. La Nina generally creates the kind of atmospheric and oceanic conditions in the Atlantic that are conducive to having more and stronger hurricanes. And sure enough, the last 3 seasons have proven to be very costly and very active. There seems to be a myth about El Ninos that it means there won't be any hurricanes. It's more variable than that. I trotted out the good book, and I looked on the thing about the tablets, and there's nowhere on there that says thou shalt not have a hurricane in El Nino. So keep that in your mind. We've been keeping track of it. They've been forecasting, the oceanographers have been forecasting we move into an El Nino by this summer, and just on cue, we officially are in the El Nino Nino conditions, which means the tropical waters in the Pacific Ocean are now warmer than normal. And when they're warmer than normal, puts more heat and moisture in the atmosphere, and you get more thunderstorms out there. Get more thunderstorms out there, that air rises. And what goes up has to come down, and the nature of the circulation that I took a whole course in, I won't bore you with. Basically what that does is a bunch of that air comes across at high levels, and we get stronger winds out of the west, and also to an extent that what benefits us on lowering our risk of hurricanes, we get sinking and dry air over the North America, Western North America, and the Western Gulf of Mexico. The way the wind shear works is it's strongest across straight across the Caribbean, and the effect continues pretty close to African coast, but it is strongest in the Caribbean. And many of the moderate to strong El Nino years, there have been no hurricanes in the Caribbean. They're around the periphery of the hurricane zone where the shear isn't as bad. Now, there are multiple factors that affect what we're going to have in a hurricane season, and most of them are relatively minor and very difficult to forecast in advance, but the other major factor is how warm is the water in the tropical Atlantic. I went and looked, and I haven't talked to other people that do seasonal forecasting, and I haven't found a single El Nino year where the Atlantic waters were significantly warmer than average until now. Right now, as of the first half of June, the waters in the tropical Atlantic are the warmest that we've ever observed in the time period that we've studied it, which is since about 1980. In fact, in the eastern Atlantic, the water temperature right now is almost the same as what you would expect at the peak of hurricane season from the end of August in through September and October. And if you've noticed, they're outlooking a system that might develop that just came off Africa yesterday. You look at the weather maps and the satellite without any dates on it, it must be August or September. And I think that's a function of just how warm that water is. So that makes a conundrum for the seasonal forecaster. We've never been there before. It's uncharted territory. We've got on the negative side for developing hurricanes, a moderate to strong El Nino underway, and on the positive side from the hurricane's perspective, exceptionally warm water in the Atlantic to fuel anything that develops. And surprisingly, most of the seasonal forecasters that I have a chance to talk with are very honest about their lack of confidence in what they're putting out this year. And they're hedging it in a way. The seasonal forecast, depending on which one you look at, is somewhere between a little bit more than normal or a little bit less than normal. But the folks that are putting those out says don't bet on it. So my key messages are there's a greater amount of uncertainty this year as to what will happen. Just because we haven't had a storm, a hurricane since, forgot one thing. We have data from 1950 onward on correlating hurricanes in El Nino or La Nina. And I mapped that up, and much to my surprise, there's only been one hurricane come close to a landfall on the Texas coast during El Nino, and that was Audrey in June of 1957 that made landfall right along the Sabine. We've had maybe 9 tropical storms, and none of those have been significant, but there's always a way to break the record. So my final message to you is the same one I give every year. The best plan you can have is plan for the worst case scenario you think might happen to you and your family, no matter what the forecast is. That way you'll be ready for when the unexpected comes up. Thank you.
Thanks so much for your insight, Bill. Always a pleasure to have you. Okay. How are we doing? All right. Let's hear from John Herriman. He's the director of Galveston County Emergency Response Team. John, you come. How about Debbie Vascik, president of Cahoon Consulting? No? Well, I know Kyle Baden, fire chief of Jamaica Beach, is here. Kyle.
Good morning. I wanted to give you a few little facts to take away today. You've heard from all the elected officials, you'll hear from the city people. We coordinate extensively with each other to let you know the information, to tell you when to evacuate. And the reality is, evacuation orders, we try to get them to you as soon as possible, realizing that the impacts of a storm can happen well before landfall. The surge from a storm shows up to 24 hours ahead of the predicted landfall of the storm. We saw that night. There are many people that were planning to leave the island on Friday morning, and they woke up Friday morning to 3 feet of water downstairs. During Ike, the water in this station reached the top of the gear lockers. That was during Ike. We talked earlier, Marie talked about the raising of 3005. It was raised 2.5 feet at Cove View Boulevard. In Jamaica Beach, it was raised 1.5 inches. So the water was over 3005 by several feet. Some nice facts about that is that water over 6 inches can move an automobile. So if you're driving through water that's over 6 inches, the wave action and the wind, it can move your automobile because you lose traction. 35-mile-per-hour winds are the upper limit of our aerial apparatus. Our ladder trucks, our tower trucks. Once the winds are sustained at 35 miles an hour, we can't put the aerials in the air because it's unsafe. They'll get blown over. About 2 feet of water is really the maximum that a fire truck can traverse. A little higher for some of the high water vehicles, but not much. And that doesn't seem like a lot, but once you get to about 3-4 feet of water, we really can't get to you. So once the water reaches about 3 feet and the winds are over 35 miles an hour sustained, fire department operations for all practical purposes are ceased. So if you're stuck in your neighborhood or you've decided to stay and wait it out, we can't get to you. Some other things to know. During Ike, we had a row of 3 houses in the back of Jamaica Beach that burned to the water line. You came in, there was about a 7.5 foot valley, and that was all that was left. We couldn't get to it. Literally, there was 8 feet of water between us and those homes. Know that if you choose to stay, it could take days before we're able to get to you for assistance. After Ike, there were mounds of debris all over 3005, mounds of sand. It took several days to clear that out to where we could safely get vehicles down, to where we could clean out the nails and the screws and all the things that prevent vehicles from driving on the concrete. I know that it's a grim thing to talk about, but if you do choose to stay in contrary to everything that we've told you, I'd say write your social security number on both arms with a Sharpie marker. At least that way we have a chance of identifying who you are when we find you later. Salt water and electricity don't mix well. So I'd say if you're evacuating, as I said, take your medications, take your food and water for you and your pets, take your pets, empty your refrigerator. Count on the power being down for some extended period of time. Centerpoint didn't bring it up, but when they evacuate the island, they set the circuits to single trip, which means it'll trip once and then it goes off, and it will not come back on. During most storms, you'll see those surges. They have it on multiple trip where it keeps trying to find alternate paths. During a hurricane, they're going to set it to single trip because they don't want the liability that comes with it. So I would say if you are evacuating, also be prepared to shut off the power to any electrical outlets that you have in the downstairs of your home. That way when the power does come back up, those water-soaked circuits don't cause a fire. It takes days for corrosion to happen down here. Yes? Yes, on the breaker panel. So all of the circuits that are to your downstairs, if you don't know what they are, have an electrician come in and label them for you so that you know that turn off those circuits that could get wet. If you have a home generator, if you have a generator that's a whole house generator, a couple of things to know about that. Texas Gas isn't here today, but during night they shut off the gas simply because they were concerned that the debris was going to start knocking the meters off and you're going to have gas leaks. Gas leaks plus sparks aren't good. So they shut the gas off. That means your home generator is not going to kick in. If you do use a home generator or you have a portable generator, you need to either have a transfer switch that transfers that power from the utility power to your home power, or you need to shut off your main breaker, because when you're feeding your generator into your house, you're not also back feeding the down power lines. That's why they say down power lines, even when the power's out, assume that they're live, because if people are back feeding through those lines, they could still be live power lines. Do not operate a portable generator in an enclosed space. Carbon monoxide poisoning are real. Don't run them near windows, don't run them near doors. Keep them as far away from you as possible. Other things to consider: once the power goes off, all of our sewage lift stations are going to go out. They operate on electricity, so that means you're going to have no sewage. Cell phone towers and the internet pops have approximately 18 hours of battery backup before they go down. If you have Xfinity, drive through some of the neighborhoods and you'll see little gray boxes that are sitting on the ground. Those boxes were under 4 feet of water early on at night. That means that Xfinity cable was out. So I've had people ask me, if I put up cameras, can I view them remotely? Well, you can until the power or the internet goes out, and then you won't be able to view them remotely. So don't count on the internet until those can be gone through and restored. AT&T uses underground lines, but once the water gets so high downstairs, it's going to get into those as well. So if you do choose to stay, know you're going to be staying in some pretty primitive conditions. Other than that, we're going to do all that we can to keep you safe up until we can't. Other things to know: during a category 3 to 4, strong 3 to 4, as the storm approaches, both Galveston Fire and Jamaica Beach Fire evacuate to behind the seawall. We both have locations that we stage at for that. We still make calls as we're able, but again, once the water gets too high, we can't get out here. In a Category 5 storm, we take our apparatus and we move it off the island. Apparatus are not easily replaceable. They're very expensive. There's a very long lead time to get apparatus. But we take them off the island so that once things are restored, we can come back and start servicing the island as well. So know that in a Category 4 or 5 storm, our resources really aren't going to be available until the storm subsides. The same thing with Centerpoint. Centerpoint's not going to come out in the middle of a storm to get your power back on. They're going to wait until it dies down, and then they'll start sending crews out to repair the damage. Centerpoint will work from the distribution centers outward, because they've got to make sure that there's no breaks in the line. So they're going to work that out until they get to your neighborhood. And nothing you can say or do is going to get them there to your house quicker. So I guess the ending of my message is: listen to your government officials. They're going to tell you what they think needs to happen. If they say we need to evacuate, please take their advice and evacuate. It's much easier to restore things afterwards than it is to try to stay here and deal with the conditions of a storm. Thank you.
Thank you, Kyle. Good recommendations. Great presentation. I saw the fire chief from the city of Galveston here, Charles Olson. I don't know if you'd like to say a few words. Charles, would you like to say a few words? City of Galveston Fire Chief Charles Olson.
How you doing?
There's really not a whole lot I can say that really hadn't already been said. Kyle did a great job, pointing out some tips that we need to adhere to. One thing that can't be said enough is with the tidal surge and the wind, nobody's coming to help you. Please listen to your elected officials. There's only so much we can do, but the rescuers can't become the one needing rescue because there's nobody there for them. Not to mention this equipment don't do well in water. Everything's turned to electronics. If the water gets over a couple of 3 feet, we don't come out at the tidal surge. So the west end, we know how the tidal surge does. But we have the same policy in Galveston. Winds get 50 mile an hour, same winds. We don't go out on the island. So again, if we say get out, please get out because there'll be nobody coming in for it. Other than that, I'm going to cut it a little short because everything I think has been covered very well today. We're here to support you guys. We work very well with the Jamaica Beach Fire Department. And if y'all ever need anything, you know how to get us. Y'all have a good one.
Thanks so much, Charles. Appreciate it. All right, we're down to Byron Frankland, Emergency Management Coordinator for the City of Galveston. Byron.
Good morning. Thank y'all for having us here. One thing that I want to talk about is when you make your hurricane preparedness kits, don't forget to take all your important documents, your insurance policies, titles to cars, emergency contact information for relatives where you can get a hold of them, things like that. We did our hurricane preparedness meeting for the City of Galveston early in May. And one of the things that I wanted to touch with y'all and talk to you about is we don't think about, as we collect stuff in our homes, insuring those things, new computers, new televisions, stereos, and things like that. Always at the beginning of hurricane season, review your insurance papers and your documents. Make sure they're all up to date. Make sure that you take those things with you when you do evacuate, and you have those with you. It helps out in the long run, helps you out, and also puts you in a kind of a peace of mind that you are going to be covered. And watch our bulletins that we put out. We take a lot of time sending out the evacuation notices early. There's one thing that, like Hurricane Ike, the island was pretty much 36 hours before it, everything was underwater. And there is a certain window when we call for an evacuation. Please heed those warnings and pay attention to it. And you've heard a lot today, and I'm just to save on brevity, I appreciate y'all having me here, and thank y'all.
Thanks so much, Byron. Appreciate it. Oh, the runner is coming up. Tim Tietjens, he's the City of Galveston, head of the planning department. Tim? You can see him bicycling all around the city.
Not on a day like today, it's too hot for that. Good morning, everybody. I'm with the Development Services Department and of Galveston, that is. And I'm here to talk to you today about what happens after the storm in the damage assessment process. So, as you may or may not be aware, there's really numerous phases of the recovery process. And Development Services handles the damage assessment phase of that. And within the recovery for mitigation, we are part of that team, including Tessa Robleski and several other folks, if you know her, great asset to the city. So what we do is we start right after the storm comes through, doing a preliminary windshield survey and rough estimates of damage via what we call the DSO, which is a disaster summary outline. And that's done as quick as possible. That's the step that we get up to basically the FEMA and the state to give them a rough order of magnitude on damages so that they can allocate resources to us. As we all know, in the case of a hurricane landfall, that begins well in advance of the storm, but this is the interaction model for various levels of disaster. So whether or not it's an extremely strong storm or a weak storm, that's how it starts. Then we, if it's a strong storm, we get into the next phase, which is called substantial damage estimating program, which is a program that FEMA generates for cities and county jurisdictions to use to do that damage assessment. And it's much more detailed and micro-focused on individual houses. So we don't get out and do that level of assessment unless it's a severe amount of damage. And so why do we do this property by property assessment? In those cases, the short answer is we're required to measure substantial damage in order to continue to participate in two programs. One is the NFIP, which we joined, the City of Galveston joined in 1971, and the CRS program, the Community Rating System, which is basically a program that gives credit to cities if they're doing things above and beyond the standard minimums that are required in our floodplain damage ordinance. It's also important to note that we participate in the community rating system as a city. That helps you as individual ratepayers get a reduction in your rates. So we are what's called a Class 6 city, which means that 20% of your rate, or I should say your rate is 20% less than it otherwise would have been because of our participation in that program. So it's very important that we maintain viability and accuracy in that program to continue going forward. Depending on the severity, not all areas of town will be damaged, not all buildings will be damaged, but for those that are, know that we have to conduct this SDE to ascertain if that damage is substantial. And because we participate in those programs, those that are required to elevate, should you become higher than 50% damage at your particular unit, you become eligible for increased cost of compliance. That's a program that FEMA puts out when folks have to elevate because they reach that threshold. They give a certain amount of money that's eligible to help with that raising. So who conducts the substantial damage estimating program? The city has a consultant team under contract to do that. Our inspector is going to be fully covered up with work, on regular recovery. And they use some standardized assessment tools and forms to complete the work. But there's some caution here. When the aftermath of the disaster is in full swing, it may appear that we're taking too long to get this all done. Obviously, that's not our intention, but we have to conduct that process in order to remain compliant with the program. And it may look like we're also splitting hairs by getting so specific with your individual unit, your house, or your business, whatever it happens to be. Anyhow, we evaluate that as a ratio of pre-storm structural value. So it also may look like we're being inequitable between properties. Somebody was declared substantial, somebody else wasn't. There's a lot of factors that go into that, including different vulnerabilities, houses elevated at different levels, different trim levels, those kind of things that all impact value and that determination of what the cost is in relation to that value. What can you do after the storm prior to that substantial damage estimating program happening? You can certainly do minor work that keeps the structure from being further damaged, okay? We're not interested in saying you guys can't do anything. What we're simply saying is do the things that dry out your home, taking off sheetrock, that kind of thing. That's all absolutely prudent to do. I would ask that you refrain from structural, mechanical work, things like that require a permit, and obviously that's based on your safety, and our inspectors can ensure that happens. I'll just wrap up by saying it's a fine line of satisfying the rules that FEMA mandates of us and helping you recover individually as soon as possible. But we would not be able to receive that federal assistance if we didn't follow those rules. So those rules are a little bit sticky, they're cumbersome, but please know that the city will work with you in every way possible if you do have to, have a substantial damage claim. All right, thanks very much.
Thanks so much, Tim. Good information. We'll move on now to Cameron Batiste from NOAA. Cameron? Thanks so much.
Hello everyone, my name is Cameron Batiste. I'm with the National Weather Service Office for the Houston-Galveston area. To start off by saying, we all know the hurricane season began earlier this month. We're going to have one storm this year, Arlene, that impacted Kila. That runs through November 30th. It ramps up in August and it does peak in September, so we're working our way up there towards the peak of hurricane season. I would like to say that 9 out of 10 storms that have impacted Texas since 2010 have formed in the Gulf of Mexico. So sometimes we don't have much time to prepare, so the best time to make your preparations for hurricane season is going to be before hurricane season starts, and the next best time is to do it now. Make sure you know your risk from hurricanes. There are multiple hazards that are associated with tropical storms and hurricanes, whether that be strong winds, rip currents, tornadoes, storm surge, and flooding from heavy rainfall. And something to note is that water-related hazards, is responsible for 90% of the fatalities during a tropical storm or a hurricane, whether it be storm surge or flooding from heavy rainfall. So I like to stress to turn around, don't drown, don't go into any floodwaters, and also to heed any evacuation orders from your city officials. If you do need to evacuate, make sure you have your disasters plans in advance. Make sure you know where you're going to go ahead of time, and make sure that your family and friends know where you're going to be, so that they're able to get into contact with you in case they're unable to contact you by your cell phone or anything like that. As far as disaster supplies go, make sure you have enough food and water for each person for at least 3 days. Make sure your cell phone is charged up. Make sure you have batteries, chargers, flashlights. It's been said before, medicine and prescriptions as well. And also don't forget to include your important documents like insurance information, things like that. And also don't forget to include your pets in your plans as well. There are hazards after a hurricane passes, as we mentioned before, but carbon monoxide poisoning from poorly ventilated generators. There can be falls or accidents as a result of the debris that's left out when you're sorting through the fallen trees and things like that. And also fires from open flames. If you have candles lit, that can fall over and cause fires if you don't have any electricity. And also to stay out of any floodwaters. As we said before, but there could be down power lines in the water, and that would cause electrical currents. And also there could be insects and wildlife in the floodwaters as well. And also fallen debris that can cause infections, because there's also bacteria in the floodwaters as well. So just best to stay out of any floodwaters unless it's absolutely necessary to go into that. Be sure to know your reliable forecast sources. That's going to be the National Hurricane Center and also our office, the National Weather Service. The differences between a watch and a warning. A tropical storm watch or a hurricane watch will be issued 48 hours in advance of those conditions, and a warning is issued when those conditions are anticipated within 36 hours. Be sure to focus on the potential impacts of a storm rather than just the size or the category of it. The difference between a high-end category 2 or a low-end category 3 isn't by that much. So just make sure you are anticipating the potential impacts from that. But we've had widespread impacts just from a regular tropical storm, so it doesn't really take a hurricane to cause widespread impacts across the area. Something else to note is that the tropical weather outlook that the National Hurricane Center does, it is, instead of 2 and 5 days that it has been recently over the past few years, it's now 2 and 7 days. So the main difference between that is going to be, we're going to have systems introduced sooner, like what Bill mentioned earlier, that there is one storm or one disturbance off the west coast of Africa. That's going to be introduced sooner, so that should likely produce longer lead times to give us more time to prepare for potential storms. In the event that a storm does form, our office will do briefings and webinars to elected officials, local public safety agencies, and emergency managers. That'll be posted onto our YouTube channel and also sent out via social media so that you guys can get it as well. In the times where that's going to be anticipated by the Hurricane Center's advisories, so that'll be, I believe, 10:30 a.m., 4:30 p.m., and 10:30 p.m. as well. There's also one at 4 a.m., but usually the people that do that are not awake at that time unless it's a major event. So be sure to make sure you stay informed this hurricane season by following the National Hurricane Center and our National Weather Service office. The National Hurricane Center can be found at nhc.noaa.gov, and our website is weather.gov/Houston. And you'll be able to find the latest forecast information, and also have a QR code if you want to come by and see me. This is our online hurricane severe weather guide. It is available in both English and Spanish. It's also found on our webpage as well. If you guys would like to come and scan that and share the link out to your family and friends that are there prepared for hurricane season as well. That is all I have. Thank you for having me today.
Thanks so much, Cameron. Now we're going to hear from Scott Fury, Galveston County Emergency Management. Scott?
Hey, good morning, everyone. Scott Fury, Emergency Manager for Galveston County. What everybody else has said, any questions? No, really, and I know Brian Maxwell kind of touched on it a little bit for evacuations. Please, it's one of the hardest decisions when your elected official calls for an evacuation. But if you think you need to leave earlier because of all that construction on 45, 146, Highway 6, which are 3 supported hurricane evacuation routes, you're not going anywhere fast, right? On a blue sky day today, it takes a while. 146 on the way down is down to 1 lane. So if you're gonna leave, you're thinking about leaving, leave earlier. The sooner you leave, miss the traffic, spend an extra night, North Houston, wherever you plan on going. And then one of the other topics too that comes up is electric vehicles. Saltwater and the electric vehicles don't mix too well. If you have an electric vehicle and you go on those evacuation routes, there's going to be no state-supported charging stations. So if you have an electric vehicle, you're going to have to plan for that. But a lot of times that gets overlooked. And then, like I said, listen to your elected officials. We all work together. I was kind of laughing. It's like a family reunion because we see each other all the time. I know we do this once a year, but we're having these meetings constantly on how do we improve, how do we make things better. Gives me a couple extra gray hairs, but we constantly work through it. We're constantly having these discussions, and that's one big key takeaway is Jamaica Beach, Galveston County. We're always working together, and we're always trying to think how do we best support the citizens. Don't want to take up too much more of your time. We'll be over there. If you're a first timer, or if you've been through this 20 times, come grab a disaster guide.
Thanks so much, Scott. We'll move into the latter part of our program, Hurricane Recovery and Lessons Learned. First, we'll hear from Trino Pedraza. He's the Director of Public Works for the City of Galveston. Trino, a popular guy.
On the good side? Hey everybody, so I'm Trino Pedraza, Executive Director of Public Works and Utilities for the City of Galveston. I've also brought Lonnie Foley, can you hear me? No? Better? Okay. I've also brought Lonnie Foley with me in the back. Lonnie, raise your hand. He is my Deputy Director of Public Works and Utilities. So, neither of us are from the island, but we've been here for a minute and we've been preparing. I started here in 2020, February of 2020, and from February of 2020 to February of 2021, there were enough incidents that gave us plenty of practice. So for example, the summer of 2020, we went through all the hurricane alphabet, right? All the names and some of the alphabet. We caught the tail end of some of those hurricanes, but they all shifted. But there was enough damage done that it allowed us to know that we weren't ready at the time, like we thought we were, and it gave us insight into how to get prepared and begin planning better. And so we got to work on that. In February of 2021, we had Winter Storm Uri, and so we lost power, we lost water, we drained the island. It was pretty catastrophic. That gave us insight into how to better operate our waterways wastewater system. And then so from that point forward, we've changed a lot of our operations. We've changed a lot of the ways we do things. We run our system quite differently. When Nicholas came in 2021, even though it was only a 1 when it comes to the water wastewater utility, we went smooth through it. When Christmas came, this last one, we had another hard freeze, and we were able to maintain the system. We had a lot of little individual outages, but we maintained the system, and then we further hardened the way we do things. We have great knowledge on how to recover our system now. So, should we get hit this summer, we're going to be prepared. What will end up happening initially is Lonnie and myself will begin to clear a path and begin the debris removal process. But very early on, we are going to divide and conquer, and I'll have him continue to work with many of the public works staff to continue to move debris and clear path for whoever needs the path cleared, right? My goal is going to be to get back to water and wastewater operations, because I want our water wastewater utilities up and running as fast as possible. We've learned different ways to isolate, we've learned different ways to store, and I believe we can recover at least the utility pretty quickly. And so that's going to be our goal for this year. Those are our lessons learned. I stand here now saying that I believe we are prepared and we're ready for whatever comes our way. Also, if y'all would like my phone number, since everybody's giving out their number and you have questions, my phone number is 409-974-6098. 409-974-6098. Thank you.
Thanks so much for your good information. Next, I'll have introduce you to Aaron Herrera and Mike Jones from the Texas Department of Emergency Management. Maybe just one.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Aaron Herrera. I work with the Texas Division of Emergency Management. We are a state agency that supports all counties and cities and local government affiliations, and also private nonprofit, the criticals during the time of a disaster and during blue sky days. As an emergency manager world, we wear many hats, as many as our local jurisdictions do, so we understand when it comes to hurricane talk, it's a big focus. I want to take this time to thank you all for being here, this awareness that we're having and informing you all of, but we just hope that you're able to take this and share this with others as well, your neighbors and those who couldn't be here. All the topics that are being talked about today, that we gather this information from lessons learned. Yes, we have many practices that we've been able to learn from, whether it was Ike or Rita, Alice, Harvey, you name it. It doesn't have to be just this jurisdiction. We can visualize other jurisdictions who are going through it right now, such as Florida, and being able to take those lessons learned and implement them into practices and trainings. The state works very closely with our local governments from county level to city level as far as training and being aware of who is in office, who's the person to go to, and what needs to be done immediately. Some of the lessons learned that it comes from the state. We are in direct contact with FEMA and other agencies when it comes to getting those resources back to the local government area to provide to the communities. What those lessons learned is the time that it takes to get those declarations. And so from some of the tools that were mentioned earlier about the assessments, being able to gather that information to get those declarations as soon as possible. I have some information in the back corner with the blue covering over the table that I can talk to you about. But you know, with those assessments, as soon as we can get those, as soon as we can share with our federal shareholders and also our other agencies who were able to provide resources immediately. If you have any questions, again, I'll be in the back corner. My name is Aaron. Thank you so much.
Thanks so much, Aaron. Next, we're going to hear from Joe Campbell from the American Red Cross. Joe? Maybe we won't hear. Let's go to Kimberly Tenassi. She's the interim chief executive officer of the Galveston Parks Board of Trustees, responsible for all the sand nourishment too.
Thank you, Jerry. Good morning, everyone. As Jerry said, my name is Kimberly. I'm the interim CEO for Galveston Island Park Board and Visit Galveston. If you aren't familiar with us, that's not unusual. We are responsible for tourism on the island island as well as the beaches. And my colleague, Chief Peter Davis with Beach Patrol, will be here in just a little bit to talk to you. He's just finishing up a call that he had on the beach at 59th Street, so he's on his way. Just so I have an idea of the audience, by a show of hands, how many of you have been in a direct hit from a hurricane? Okay, so we have some experts in the room. That's great. That's really good. And I applaud you for coming to this meeting today, because even though you've lived through it, you still want to make sure that you're prepared, and that says a lot. You've gotten a lot of really good information today, and I'll talk a little bit about what the park board does, but since everybody's up here offering you advice, I'll go ahead and give you a little piece of advice too. I've been through 4 hurricanes. I lived on the East Coast for a while, and then I moved here and was blessed by Hurricane Ike in 2008. I'm also a West Ender, so I was out here when that happened. And I think the most important thing that any of you can do today as you leave this meeting is think about your neighbors and your friends that didn't attend today, that probably have not been through a hurricane, that really need your advice. Aaron pointed to that, Take this message back to them. Think of your neighbors who maybe don't have a vehicle, have mobility challenges, who live on their own, who are elderly. And when you take the message from today, take that back to them and make sure that they have a plan, and check on them once we get that notification that it's time to evacuate. The park board, I'll tell you what we do in the event of a disaster. We're really the ones who prepare on the front end through Chief Davis, and as I said, I'll let him talk about that. He's the expert, I'm not. But on the back end, we work closely with the city of Galveston and the state of Texas to clean up the beaches. And hopefully Chief Davis will touch on this, but the most important thing that I can impress upon you is post-storm, please do not go out into the water. There are going to be a lot of hazards that you can't see. There might be some ecological things that we're dealing with in the water. So that's my biggest message to you all today, is don't go out in the water. And the last thing that I'll share with you, because we are the tourism partner for the island, is that we're going to work really closely with our industry partners, hotels, restaurants, attractions, small businesses, to make sure that they can get back on the island, that we can get our economy back up and running. I will be here through the end of the meeting today. If you have any questions, please come by and see me. My name is Kimberly, and you can call or text me at 409-797, I have business cards too, 5106. And thanks for giving me the opportunity to meet with you all today. Stay safe.
Thanks so much, Kimberly. All right. Now we're going to hear from Chief of Police, Galveston, Doug Valley. And I hope that's the new uniform you're wearing, Doug.
Thank you. It's much cooler than the regular uniform I wear. Good morning, and I'm glad to be here again. I think it's my 4th time being out here to speak with you. And just to let you know a little bit about operations, once we go into evacuation, what the Galveston Police Department is going to do is we're going to take every resource that we have, we're going to split it in half. 50% of our personnel will be working from 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. overnight, and the other 50% will be working during the day. And we will remain in that storm phase until we get direction to go back to regular operations. But it will probably be 60 to 90 days before we get there. And so it's really going to determine on the severity of the storm and what happens. Chief Garibay and I, we work very well together. We would be working with Jamaica Beach. Honestly, most police departments come to us and they ask us for something because they need something. With Jamaica Beach PD, we generally need them before they need us because we're a little bit further away from a call and they help us. And so we would be here assisting Jamaica Beach PD, they would be assisting us outside, and then all of the law enforcement entities on the island would come together and basically do whatever it takes to keep the island as safe as possible. In the event of evacuation, it is my recommendation to go to a 24-hour service. We're already a 24-hour service, but go to 24-hour service with 100% of our personnel immediately. And the reason is that you have to be able to trust that we're going to do everything possible to protect your property while you're away from it. And that's our goal, and that's what we want to do. And that's a lot of trust that you place in us, and we should do everything we can to make that happen. While we cannot ensure that nothing will happen to your property while you're away from it. The President of the United States is ensured, he has the best security forces in the world at his side at all times, and we see how many times that there's been attempts on their lives and that has happened. So we're going to do the best that we possibly can. We're going to work with all of our law enforcement partners. We're going to work with all of our first responder partners. We're going to try to get you back on the island as fast as possible. Yes, ma'am. The evacuation will be set through county judge, city officials, the elected officials will work through that. Once that goes into effect, TxDOT's plan is to evacuate by zip code. You will be the first zip codes evacuated. And so if everyone abides by the zip code rule, we should be okay. Now, is everyone going to do that? There's going to be people on the north side of Houston that decide that they want to get out the moment that Jamaica Beach wants to get out as well. And so is that going to create some issues on the roadways? It more than likely is. And that's the reality of it. So I would say prepare early. If you want to miss that and you have somewhere to go and you have the means by which to do that, leave a little early. If you can, if you anticipate that it's coming this way and evacuation's imminent, I would say leave as early as you possibly can to avoid some of the traffic. Any other questions? Thank y'all for having me. Y'all have a wonderful day and happy Father's Day.
Thanks so much, Steve. Glad to have you here. Okay, well, Michael, you're alone back there, but now you're up here. Michael Rest from Galveston Insurance Associates.
Thank you, Jared. Thank you guys for having me. We've seen some familiar faces in the crowd. Thank you for your trust in our business. We appreciate you having your business with us. Wanted to talk a little bit about the insurance policies you have on your home, and then a couple things to make sure you do have within those insurance policies to make sure that you're taken care of during storm season. So, first insurance policy you're going to have is a homeowner's policy. That is going to protect your house, like often happens during storms. You have lightning, catch your home on fire. You have electrical surges that may catch your home on fire. You may have plumbing issues. And then as we've seen over the past couple of years, the freeze damage issues that protects your homes when those pipes burst on the inside. That's a homeowner's policy. Next is going to be windstorm. Predominantly down here is going to be Texas windstorm. So windstorm is going to protect your home when you have exterior damage to windows, to siding, to your roof, and any ensuing damage that comes in from that. If your roof is taken off, if a window is blown out, any wind or water-related issues that happen from that, that's going to be windstorm. If you're writing things down, there's an endorsement under windstorm policies. That's the most used endorsement when we have storms come through. That is called wind-driven rain. It's indirect loss. Write this down. It's endorsement 320. If you have windstorm policies, you want to make sure you have endorsement 320. So what that is when you don't have a total loss to your roof or have a puncture in your building and water is hitting your windows at 70 miles an hour for 3-4 hours at a time, that water's going to find its way in. It's going to damage your sheetrock, your flooring, and many of those things. That's the most used item on a windstorm policy we see year in and year out. So make sure you have endorsement 320. The next one is flood insurance. As you guys know, flood is prevalent down here with your homes being elevated. Nothing realistically is covered below the first living level. That's NFIP rules, unfortunately. But when water does get about the hurricane ike levels and above, what often happens is floods, those homes just go ahead and topple over. Flood insurance for certain. The next thing that I want to talk about is how to prepare your home or yourself for claim scenarios. If you think about the amount of claims that are processed here on the island, it's in upwards of 5,000 to 8,000 just with our agency alone. So the amount of adjusters that have to get to all those losses, you want to make sure that when they get to you, it's as easy as possible. So before storms even come, I like to do it June 1st, because when there's a hurricane coming at your house, you're not going to think about this. Take photos of the exterior home, all 4 sides. What that's going to do is just get a snapshot of what your house looked like. If you come back and there's catastrophic loss, you want to be able to show the adjuster what was there. Do the same thing on the inside of your home. Every major room in your house, take photos of what was there, the flooring, the furniture, and so forth, and try to create an itemized inventory list of the values of those things. If you do come back to a catastrophic loss scenario, you're going to be able to show the adjuster pretty quickly, hey, this is what we had, this is what was there, make their job easier, get yourself indemnified, and move on. So after you come back, obviously before you leave, you want your contact information of your insurance carriers and your agents so you can make claims. When you come back, if you have damage, it's your right to prevent further damage to your home. So do what you need to do to start tearing out sheetrock and get your home from being wet. What I advise is to keep all of that damage on site if you can until you've had a chance to meet with your adjuster so you can prove that you had damage and so forth. Obviously, photos of all the damage before you do rip things out, again, so you can prove that as well. So just a couple quick things to look at. Make sure you have copies of your insurance policies. Check with your agents as we're in the middle of hurricane season. And that's about it. Thanks so much for your business. I'll be in the back until we're here for questions. Thank you.
Thanks, Michael. And do visit the booth back there. He's all alone. Okay, well, he did make it. And he's one who doesn't need an introduction. You read about him every Friday in the paper. Chief of Police for the Galveston Parks Board of Trustees, Peter Davis.
Thanks. Sorry. The beach was busy this morning, so I got hung up on the way out. It's really great to be here. I love anything that Jerry wants. I will always do. He's one of my big heroes. I know you've heard 1,000 times from the different people who've spoken already, get early, get out often, so I'm not even going to tell you about that part of it. I'm just going to talk a little bit about Beach Patrol's role during these storms. The first thing we're going to do is keep protecting lives on the beachfront, and it does get a bit complicated with that because it's not just rip currents, it's the whole beach that ends up at a certain point being dangerous. And we start getting stuff coming down from the rivers if there's a lot of rain and that kind of stuff too. So at some point we may end up working with the city to close the beaches temporarily until it's safe to get in there. And then what we'll do is once the beach is sort of taken care of itself, as it gotten too dangerous for anybody to even think about going in, we'll roll in with our partners with police, fire, EMS, and of course Jamaica Beach Fire and Rescue was a big partner in Galveston Marine Response, and work on urban flooding response, like rescues of high water in the town. Then we'll hole up with the other public safety people and go back out as soon as we can. And then at that point, once that's stabilized, if the beach doesn't have needs, we'll plug and play wherever they need us in the city. So like in Ike, we did building searches and checking on welfare of people that were reported and stuff like that. Just a couple things about the water. Not only are you going to see a lot of debris out there, but there's also, it's not that safe to be out there because there's also a runoff and all the kind of stuff that happens with that. So it's just something you want to be careful about. Texas Beach Watch does a great job of checking our beaches regularly, but they may not be activated right after a storm. So you just want to be careful with using yours on the beachfront. And then our public officials will be putting out information about that. Other than that, we're out there doing what we do, and we do have a patrol running every day out here on the West End and on weekends out there at San Luis Pass right now. So if you need anything, just holler at us or get us on our website or whatever. I appreciate you letting me talk and bend your ear for a sec. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Peter. You do such a great job. I have down the Corps of Engineers. Is there somebody? Maybe not. Okay. Well, we'll get to our featured speaker. That'll be the mayor. But before we do that, I do mention this every year. If you remember Ike, of what Jamaica Beach did for the West End, they opened up their doors. They had the Salvation Army, the Red Cross, they had food, water, and they're just a wonderful neighbor to have. So let me have the closing remarks by Mayor Sharon Bauer.
Thank you, and we are always happy to sponsor this. Just a few points that other people have made. Recognize we probably are going to call for evacuation sooner than a typical year, and that is because of all the road construction. As they pointed out, Highway 146 is one lane until September. We all know how it bottlenecks through from exit 10 to Buc-ee's, and we know how hard it's going to be off this island. Highway 6 is under construction as well. So recognize that the West End, where we will go underwater sooner than anybody else, I'm kind of giving a heads up. We're probably going to call for mandatory, if a storm is coming our way, a mandatory evacuation could be called a few hours earlier than in the past to get you safely off. So please be thinking about that. Please be thinking about how you're going to get off the island if you need to. The other thing I would like to point out is I know within Jamaica Beach, and I assume Galveston has the same kind of program, Chief Garibay posted, probably about a month ago now, that please let him know, let City Hall know if you have neighbors who are mobility impacted. We are working our plan on how to provide ways to evacuate those people. So we don't want our lift trucks out to get people out of their homes because they're stranded trying to evacuate. So please, please, please look out for your neighbors. Jamaica Beach is known for that. We do a good job looking out for each other. And the other thing for Jamaica Beach residents, we've been promoting our Blackboard system is up and running. That's our best way to immediately notify you. So please make sure your information is up to date. At City Hall, there is a sign-in sheet for Blackboard. I'll tell you, it's a little annoying to go set up. You gotta set up a password, and none of us want to do that. But city staff is happy to help you do that. So to keep informed about evacuation, options available, and especially remember it's the tool we'll use to get you back on the island. So please, please use that Blackboard. Anyway, and I'm also, Chief, are you here? He might have walked out. Anyway, Chief Garibay is our new police officer. We're lucky that he comes from Freeport. So he's had experience with storms and preparedness. Oh, there you are. Can you walk up, Chief, and just let everybody see your smiling face? Not that they don't see it enough on Facebook already, but, but here it is. Anyway, so we have been in talks with Galveston as usual, working our shared plans and our shared resources. Anything after that?
Chief Valley touched on it all. Just folks, all the meetings that we've been going to, some of the main concerns is the traffic. They've got plans in place. We've seen them. We've seen maps. Who's going to leave first? Who's going to leave next? It's always a plan until it goes into effect. We can only tell you to leave so many times. But the worst thing that will ever happen is if you don't leave, you're stranded. Those are the main stories that we discussed at our roundtables is how do we get to you if we can't get to you? So please, when it's time to leave, listen, it's better to be safe than sorry. You've heard that, oh, I've been through several of them, and it never turns out to be anything. It's better to be safe than sorry. But we are meeting weekly, a roundtable going into Galveston, going into Dickinson, Lake City. So we are being part of that because it also affects us as we're on our way out. But we're always here for you. The mayor's here for you. Council members are here for you. If there's any questions that we can do for you, not just Jamaica Beach, here in the West End, we're here for you. God bless you. Thank you.
Once again, I'd like to thank you all for coming. We've got pizza in the back, and there's some coolers back there with water. With this heat, let's make sure we hydrate. And does anybody have Way West Grill? Yes, Way West Grill brought the pizzas for us. So a special thank you to them. Thank you. Anybody have any final questions or comments? Okay, thank you all, guys.